Shirley on trumpet.
Yeah.
Chris Farn on bass. Hope Adobe on keys. We're sure Tyler on drums. We're excited to be here on this evening in support of and collaborating with DC JazzFest and WEAC Radio. Major shout out to Sonny Sumter over at DC JazzFest and Camone here at WEAC Radio. We hope you enjoyed that first tune, but more than talking, we're going to get right back to it. We got some amazing poetry coming up in a few as we pay tribute to our hometown hero. We'll dig more into that. I'll let Camone also explain a lot more in detail on what I just mentioned. But with that said, guys, we're going to keep this thing rolling.
you're welcome to join and get drinks if you like.
Okay.
And the restroom is also straight back. Okay.
short break. We got some poetry coming right up. Kirk will be on the break, but if not, just stay put to the second set.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a short musician's break, just to rest our hands, our ears, our brains. We got some announcements coming up, I believe, so keep your ears open.
Let me do a proper introduction.
Woo! Man.
All right. Wait, one more time, y'all. Now, does anyone here not know who Thomas Sayers Ellis is? I didn't say was, but Thomas Sayers Ellis is a towering figure in the DC community and beyond. Poet, photographer extraordinaire, and if you haven't heard of him, perhaps you heard of. Y'all good. I don't want to get the main instrument. It's a banter. Perhaps you heard of DC's own Black Alley. Have you heard of Black Alley?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm in good company here. I got a message from the founder of Black Alley, who couldn't be here, and he had a tribute that I thought was telling, and I wanted to share it with you guys. If I can pull it up right here. I'm sorry I don't have it queued up here. And we're getting ready for, I would say, the most prolific poet in Washington, D.C. alive today, Mr. Kenny Carroll. Yes, I said that with my whole chest. So this is from my man Cam from Black Alley. He's the founder and manager. And he says this about the late, great Thomas Sayers Ellis. I didn't know he had joined the ancestors, a unique voice and son of the city. I'm not old enough to say he was the first Renaissance man of go-go, but he was the first one I knew of. Gracious enough to let me use one of his many supremely dope photos as album art for one of Black Alley's earlier projects. God bless that man's soul. May he guide the crank from the other side.
Yeah.
Okay, now, that's his 2 cents. Let me put my 2 cents on it. The thing that I revere about Thomas Sayers Ellis was that he wasn't just a poet in voice. He was a poet in action. All right? So, most of you know about Busboys and Poets. It's named after Langston Hughes, right? So, one of the missteps that people can make when you mean good, but you're not really in tune, and somebody has to tell you. The owner of Busboys and Poets had a cutout of Langston Hughes in his Busboys uniform, holding a plate, greeting people at the door. And Thomas took offense. Like, hold up, Slim. You can honor the man, but you ain't honoring his work. You honor him, you know what I'm saying, in his most demeaning occupation that does not define him whatsoever. He was discovered as the busboy poet. I see where you're going with it, but it's not a good look, is it? So what does Thomas Sayers Ellis do? He kidnaps it. He's on camera, grabbing it and making off with it. And they called the police, and then we had to say, hey, you're making it even worse. And they made amends, and everything was cool, and that was one of those community moments where we saw the situation that could have been contentious. And that's what Thomas Sayers Ellis represented. He was a man of action. His words spurred thought. He thought on a different frequency, and we're so sorry to have lost him so early to a respiratory illness. And without further ado, I present to you none other than the most prolific poet alive in Washington, D.C., during the D.C. takeover. And by sure that you guys join the Free D.C. Project if you want to do something. Yeah, welcome to We Act Radio, and please put a hand together for our brother who occupied this very space before we got it. He blessed it. This is his house. I'm just a custodian for the most prolific poet in Washington, D.C., Kenny Carroll.
Thank you.
Big feet, watch your steps.
Right. I ain't going that close.
All right, but I need you right here so you're on the camera, Ken.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I can't afford none of that.
Yeah, let me get you over here.
I buy my bread by the slice.
There you go.
Thank you, Brother Kimon, for inviting me to have this brief moment to poetically praise Thomas Sayers Ellis. I should point out about that cardboard cutout of Langston Hughes. Thomas ain't never get that shit back. And he used to mess with me because he would send me every now and every few months, he would send me information telling me what state the cardboard Langston was in. Well, we called it Flat Langston. And Flat Langston ended up all over the country. I know somebody who has it now. But
so it's still out there?
It's still out there. It ain't been returned yet.
The legend.
But that was more. And I was telling Tom, get the man they shit back. But Thomas Sayers Ellis was a friend of mine, an amazing poet. It doesn't do him enough justice to talk about him as a DC poet. Thomas was internationally respected as one of the most innovative poets in the nation. I didn't even know all the accolades he had until he passed and people were publishing obituaries. But of course, one of the things he's known for is capturing the images and the music of both go-go and funk music. Thomas actually went on tour several times with Parliament Funkadelic and traveled the country with them. In addition, just like these great brothers who are up here, Thomas also created a group along with some other folks, starting with Brandon Lewis, called Heroes Are Gang Leaders. If you get a chance, go to Spotify or any streaming platform and download Heroes Are Gang Leaders. You're gonna hear some of the greatest freeform jazz and poetry you've ever heard. It is amazing work, and it's out there. They actually received I'm trying to think if they received a Pulitzer or some kind of other award for one of their albums. It was amazing. And so I'm just going to do a few pieces, a couple of pieces from Thomas, and then an elegy to him. And this first piece, so Thomas's greatest books are why am I blanking on it? What's Thomas? The Maverick Room. Who said that? Yes, thank you.
Skin Ink.
Right, Skin Ink, The Maverick Room, and of course his last book, Crank-Shaped Notes, which I remember him sending to me. It's like, Kenny, you got to read this. And The Maverick Room I should know because I'm from Northeast, and we was there every Wednesday night, Tuesday night. But yeah, so check out his writing, his contributions to journals. It's just amazing stuff. So I wanted to do two pieces to start out. And I know his son Ben was here. I got a chance to meet them at the funeral. But this is from Maverick Room. Take Me Out to the Go-Go. Nikita zips across stage, trailed by a troop of white glove one-wheelers. Killer Joes, the 12 and under crew in disguise. A sixth sense guides him beyond darkness. An inner voice says, when? Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. I'll tell you when. A constellation of funeral homes, jumpsuits, red, white, and blue, ribbons in the sky, the total groove, a carnival of roses circling the moon, mere call and response.
Entertainment now 40.
No, I'm right over there. That's Thomas fucking with me. A constellation of funeral homes, jumpsuits, red and white, ribbons in the sky, the total groove, a carnival of roses circling the moon. Mere call and response, never knocked socks this way, lifting nicknames and dates from the faces of tombstones. And mere call and response never will. God climbs inside, asking for souls, something we weren't taught to share. Take Me Out to the Go-Go. And so Thomas had a nickname. He was actually in a go-go band, and I know he played rototoms and timbales and something else. So they called him Sticks. When I met him, I thought they called him Sticks because they had skinny legs. But it turned out they called him Sticks because he was in a go-go band. So this, again, is from the Maverick Room. And I got a chance to meet his brother, James, and we talked about this poem. And because Thomas didn't do a lot of personal poetry. In fact, he used to talk to me about writing, and he was like, man, we need to get the you out. His thing was like how to make the voice more universal. But his brother James was saying that this was a piece that bothered James a lot when he heard Thomas read it for the first time. He thought it was too personal, talked about his mother and his father, and you'll hear it in the point. It's an amazing piece. One of the first pieces I saw in a journal from him. Sticks. My father was an enormous man who believed kindness and lack of size were nothing more than sissified signs of weakness. Narrow-minded. His eyes were the worst kind of jury, deliberate, distant, hard. No one could outshout him or make bigger fists. The few who tried got taken for bad, beat down, their bodies slammed. I wanted to be just like him. Big man, man of the house, king, a plagiarist hitting the things he hit. I learned to use my hands watching him use his. Come on, bro. Pretending to slap mother when he slapped mother. He was sick. A diabetic slept like a silent vow inside his well-built, muscular, dark body. Hard as all that, with similar weaknesses. I discovered writing, how words are parts of speech, with beats and breath of their own, interjections like flams, wham, bam, an air to the rhythm, and tension beneath the beatings. My first attempts were filled with noise, wild solos, violent, uncontrollable blows. The page tightened like a drum, resisting the clockwise twisting of a handheld chrome key, the noisy banging and tuning of growth. And so that sticks. Again, those two pieces are from the Maverick Room. Please pick up that book. I was moving my books around, so I went down to MLK to just pull a copy for the day. Shit was gone. And I told the librarian, I said, well, y'all do a lot of go-go, so people might have came down here. And I said, you know, some of Thomas people, they may not use their library card when they check shit out. But the lovely thing Tom would have liked about that is that his poetry was between Paul Laurence Dunbar and Dylan's work. And of course, Thomas was a student at Paul Laurence Dunbar. And I remember the first time I went there to do a poetry reading, I met his English teacher, and who was a big influence on Thomas. And I said, yeah, you know, my friend Thomas says Ellis. She said, Thomas was brilliant, but he could be a handful. And I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds like him. But I also had Thomas come. I taught at Duke Ellington School for the Arts for a number of years. And I had a literary class, and I had Tom come to the class. So this piece is called Thomas, Sayers, Ellis, and Duke Ellington. The epigraph for y'all heathens like me is from John 14:2. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. You walk into my class dressed like one of James Brown's famous flames. You place a boombox on a chair, hit play, PA tape in the pocket, the groove like your backup band. There are many ways into a house, you say, and many ways into a poem. Many ways to Juju House, I think, which is another poem. Little Benny replaces Gabriel as the lead trumpet in heaven. You anointed us that day, a school named for another DC artist. We all members of the subject-verb disagreement club, you say. You say Africa has never agreed to the subject-verb agreement, and my students agree. Which is to say, that you are Thomas Sayers Ellis from 7th and T Street. If capitalism and racism don't kill us, we all gonna be free. Like the Maverick Room, we be free at 4th and Rhode Island if you know the code, like Chuck told me to come over. Your book is on the same shelf as Paul Laurence Dunbar. That's some black shit. But the skin you in ain't the end. You genius, cannon caller, but it ain't never stopped you from seeing sane. Which is to say that you were my friend. My email full of unreleased music, conspiracy theories, backstage photos with Parliament and Lil Benny and the Masters. I was with you when the Unfunky Mob arrived, shouting out our crew name, crank-shaped notes. There are many ways into a home with many mansions. You let us enter your poetry through the ventricles of your heart, a blessing from the pocket of the universe. Fly on, Tom, Chocolate City's Afro Bard. Thank you. And I want to finish.
Want to check in?
No, I'm cool, man. I'm old, but I ain't that old. No, I'm we'll finish up with a couple of pieces. This piece got me in a little bit of trouble because I forgot when we was performing at Malcolm X Park that the WPFW was recording live. So
Wow.
yeah, so what they did is, luckily my man at the station, the engineer, he did that 5-second drop, so no FCC problems. All right, this is called Free Palestine and Trump is a motherfucker. Palestine could be free right now. Children and families could be eating meals, laughing to a song of the sea in Gaza. But our president is a motherfucker. This motherfucker is a pillager and kidnapper, enslaver and treasonous rebel, as nullifier and cowardly mob, as terrorist and hypocrite, as discriminator and exploiter, and denier of restorative justice. This motherfucker, my father once said, is the same kind of motherfucker that attended Poplar hangings and Magnolia rapes. The president is the same this motherfucker of red lines, segregated housing, nigger schools, church bombings. Bluesman say don't get me to talking. Palestine must be free now. It is our job, because to let these motherfuckers know we want a free Palestine and a free DC. So it does not surprise us that the country elected this motherfucker, a diseased genetic remnant from a long line of ugly motherfuckers who think their ugliness can reverse time, who imagine black as backwards. The people won't give them these hands, but we will. These motherfuckers fitting to learn. And I want to close out with this piece. This is called DC Wishes. Bro, Finn! What's up, man? This is Thomas Sayers Ellis' son. Come on up, brother. Come on up, man. Come on up, man. I told you, man, when I see this brother, man, I feel Thomas, man. That's what I told him, man. You want to say anything, man? I was just talking y'all up, the family, but.
Nah, I just, you know what I'm saying, I'm appreciative of everything, and I know my father will be too, you hear me? You know, it's just, everything is still a long battle, though,
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We're getting everything together, though, and trying to piece together all his things.
Right.
You know, because we still got stuff in museums.
Right.
We still got stuff in libraries and stuff like that, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? That, you know, so we need to find all these things and stuff that's around, because he had a big body of work,
Right,
you know?
right.
So we're just trying to collect all this stuff and bring it together for, you know, his remembrance, his legacy and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, so, but
Right.
let's continue on doing this, because when I ain't, you know, like really doing nothing like that, I fall back into the, like, you know, the the pain part of
Right,
it all. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right,
'Cause
right.
my father passed away suddenly. It was
Sudden.
just sudden. He was walking, literally walking in the house, and his
Wow.
heart stopped.
Wow.
You know, for those that
Wow.
was unaware how my father passed away, his heart just stopped. You know what I'm saying? It was literally his time. He didn't have any sicknesses or
Right,
none of that
right.
stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So everything is just so sudden. You
Yeah.
know, so we've been having to scramble like crazy. You know, to get things and collect stuff like that.
Right.
But let's do this though, cause
Right.
this what he love and this what I
Right.
love. So.
And I love, Finn, the stories that you told at the service for Tom, because I did not know he took you as a child up to Brown's campus.
Yeah. I used to run around Harvard just like it was my playground. And you know, I was coming from southeast to Massachusetts, so
Right.
I was wild. You know what I'm saying? I stayed right up the street right here in Langston Lane.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
Langston,
saying?
yeah.
So when he came and got me, I was 6.5.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And just a little southeast kid. You know what I'm saying? And next thing I know, I'm on a big campus. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I'm the only one that looked like me
Mhm.
anywhere. But you know, it was a wonderful experience.
Man.
It was wonderful,
amazing.
wonderful for
Right,
real. So you
right.
know, it's been it's been a crazy path, man, so far, man. But it continues though because His blessings is still pouring out to me even
Right.
after death. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And Finn, just real quick, is there any way people can contact you, people who want to support? Because we know it's an effort, man, like you say, gathering all of his art in the
Yeah.
many forms.
Yeah, so I say probably in like I'm gonna give it like about a week.
Okay.
And we have his estate posted up.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying, for the people to Gmail, email and all that. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying, that wanna, you know what I'm saying, help out or whatever like that. We will have the Thomas Ellis estate joint posted up or whatever.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But it's just a lot to be done right now.
It's
though.
a lot, man. Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna sit
Right.
down.
And yes, sir. And the cool thing about Finn growing up with his father, growing up in the art, is that all of us who love Thomas and admire his work, we feel like his work is safe with Finn. Like, because Finn is a child of the vision, knows it. Y'all look at Finn, y'all know Finn ain't the normal kid. He's special, and he got that same artistic temperament as Dad. And so I know he's gonna protect the work. And like I say, you need any backup, you know, that DC crew is ready to roll, man. Just holler, you know? So I'm gonna close out with this piece. So as Kimon used to say, oh man, back in 1989, I think, we opened this spot, me and Peter Clare, rest in peace. And this used to be a cultural art spot called 8 Rock. Here's the significant thing about 8 Rock. Out of 8 Rock comes DC's first hip hop open mic group. So Tony Blackman, Sub-Zero, aka Terrence Nicholson, they started having an open mic hip hop night right here. Then it expanded and went across the river near Howard University, where you get people like Priest the Nomad, Kakaya, all of these cats. There are a bunch of documentaries coming out about this, but they took the art across the river, so a lot of people got involved. The other thing about 8 Rock, significant thing, we had one of the first East of the River open mics. So Poets and Thomas and the Darkroom Collective was one of the first poetry groups we brought down from Brown University to perform in our spot. And so then that scene moved over to Northwest with a scene called It's Your Mug, and created the It's Your Mug, which is up Georgetown, and then led to all the U Street spaces where there were open mics and poetry performers. Some of the people who come out of this are like incredible Pulitzer Prize winners, Whiting Award winners like Tom. I mean, just amazing folks. And, you know, Ta-Nehisi Coates comes out of this, our organization over here, just a bunch of people. And so this was a hell of a spot, because when we got this spot, was nothing on the avenue down this end, right? That joint at night, this joint was dark. Okay, so it was us and the flower shop. I don't know how that flower shop stayed in business. I don't know what they was doing on the side, but it was us and the flower shop. And we were the only thing happening. The subway didn't even run over here yet. The Anacostia station wasn't open yet when we came in. And so, but we would have open mic hip hop nights where people would be out into the streets. Cops would be trying to break the joint up. It just became huge, bigger than we could ever imagine. And so I'm glad that WEAC is here now. I'm glad the Go-Go Museum is here, and that cultural impact is still happening in the city. So I read this piece a couple of weeks ago to open for EU on the mall, and this is kind of a signature piece. It's called DC Wishes, and yeah, some DC shit. All right, DC Wishes. I wish you junkyard at the Icebox, Chuck Brown at the Panorama Room, Mary Steaks, cookouts, Rock Creek sodas and Rock Creek Park. A seedless joint rose tight as EU in the pocket at Anacostia Park. Miss Teensy's bread pudding, block parties, open hydrants, balling at Kennedy Playground, Baggy John's jump shot before the addiction, old heads hand dancing at the chateau, us slow dragging in an unfinished basement, your brown arms around me, our hips in a desperate grind, choreographed by Red Light and Skip Mahoney's falsetto. A northern breeze in July, nightly thunder showers in August, silent politicians. I wish you loud bid wish games, my mother and your mother alive again, laughing cinnamon scents in our kitchen. Our daddies sober, locked in tunk games, raucous as a Georgia Avenue barbershop on Saturday. I wish you low HIV and low murder rates. I wish you safe neighborhoods with real neighbors, not arrogant urban pioneers and neo-settlers, real neighbors. I wish you Marvin Gaye spilling from someone's open window, making out the quiet storm at Haynes Point, shopping on 8th Street with Grandma Eastover with Mommy, musty rummage sales at First Canaan Baptist Church. I wish you U Street muted by 4 feet of February snow. I wish you fireworks at Malcolm X Park. I wish you pre-Korean mumbo saw. Y'all don't know about that. Steak and cheese subs from Eddie's, Salmon's, Swords. I wish you a Bamela's world swung to a Thomas Sayers Ellington tune. Thank you.
Thank you.
You ready for the band?
All right, so here we go. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for coming out. This is probably one of the baddest ensembles that we have working today.
It's choir.
Yeah, it's clearly the next generation.
Choir.
So welcome them back for their second set. This is Left Hand Leaks and FreeForm.
Bruh.
Ain't shit free in this motherfucker.
FreeForm.
And I want all of you guys, please, to follow these artists.
Yes.
Follow WEAC Radio. Follow
Yes.
Kenneth Carroll. You got to follow what you love and not just what you hate. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the mayor's outside right now. Anybody want to go out there and heckle her, you're welcome to do that. She's literally in the backyard. The house Negroes are outside and the field Negroes are inside. Okay? But if you want to make that adjustment, feel free. Drinks are outside as well. Okay?
Right.
But this is what it is. This is what it is. But the DC takeover is not going away. So we have to do something. Okay?
Right.
We have to do something. And before these guys come back on, I'm gonna give y'all some lifting words from the late great Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison said this: I'm staring out the window in an extremely dark mood, feeling helpless. Then a friend, a fellow artist, calls. He asks, "How are you?" And instead of, "Oh, fine, and you?" I always ask people, like, if everybody, you say, "How you doing?" Everybody says fine, they lying. Because in what world is everybody fine? Okay, just want to put that up there, put a pin in that. I blurted out the truth, not well. Not only am I depressed, I can't seem to work, to write. It is as though I am paralyzed, unable to write anything. I've never felt this way before. I'm about to explain with further detail when he interrupts, shouting, "No, no, 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 no. This is precisely the time when artists go to work, not when everything is fine, but in times of dread. That's our job." I felt foolish the rest of the morning, especially when I recalled the artists who had done their work in gulags, prison cells, hospital beds, who did their work while hounded, exiled, reviled, pillared, and those who were executed. This is precisely the time when artists go to work. There is no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. This is how civilizations heal. Toni Morrison. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Left Hand Leaks and the FreeForm as these artists go to work.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Brandon Woody on trumpet.
Yeah.
Chris Fine on bass.
Yeah.
Hopeful W on keys.
Yes, sir.
We're going to start this one with an original by my brother Brandon Woody.
Oh, Brandon.
Yeah, the incomparable Brandon Woody. Everybody on this stand is leaders in their own right, so make sure you look us up on Instagram.
Yeah.
That being said, we're going to get y'all two more, and I believe, I don't know if the poet's coming back or not.
You good.
We got about two more for y'all, so hopefully y'all enjoy it.
Okay.
on bass. Coach Kobe on keys. Yo, truly Tyler on drums. Yo, y'all can look us up on Instagram by our first and last names. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow We Act Radio. Shout out to Come On. Y'all get Come On out of the song. Shout out to DC Jazz Fest. When do we kick off?
You got one more?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay, y'all want to back me up.
Y'all want another one? Hold on, what that shirt say? What that shirt say?
Yeah.
Trump must go now. Trump must go now. Yeah. I'm with you, my sister.
Make us feel
I know you really want to do it. You really want to do it?
Please don't leave, guys. We can't say for y'all leave. Thank you.
You see her face. Let's burn one. Let's light one. I was with it. Keys. Yours truly, fellow people on drums. This is telling me the FreeForm. Make sure y'all follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Keep up with us as we're around the city. Everybody has their own groups in their own right. With that said, y'all be safe.
Yeah.
And I like your shirt right here. You can show the people your shirt. With that said, guys, we out.
All right.
All right, so I have a short introduction and announcement. First of all, I have to say thank you, Simone, for inviting me tonight. This was beautiful. Beautiful to be up here with these musicians, and the poetry was incredible. My name is Lucha. I'm with Refuse Fascism. I'm also a member of the RevCom Corps for the Emancipation of Humanity. And I'm here to say what we're facing with this Trump takeover is not just the Trump takeover of DC, it's Trump fascism remaking the whole society. And it has to be driven out by the struggle of the people. And the poet here earlier, and I was struck by the line in your poem that said it talked about the people in the White House as the celebrators of lynching. That's what's happening in this White House. That's what confronts the people right now in this society and is a danger to the people of the world. The rounding up of immigrants off the street, the stripping of basic rights, the shredding of constitutional rights, the fact that they will put Democratic lawmakers in handcuffs means that they will stop at nothing in what they will do to the people. And that means they have to be stopped. And that is not going to come from waiting for an election. That is not going to come from anybody in a position of power right now that's going to step in and save us. That has to be through the struggle of the people. And we are calling on everybody to be part now of standing up to defy the fascist takeover. And more than that, to be spreading the word everywhere that November 5th, we are making a move. November 5th is the day that people from across this country need to flood into DC in the millions, surround the White House, surround the Capitol, surround the fascist PAC Supreme Court, demand the fascist regime be removed from power, and do not stop and keep coming back until that demand is met. Because these are not normal times and are not normal ways we're going to deal with this. But with that kind of struggle of the people, we can crack open the cracks at the top of this society and force this removal, and it's what is needed from us by humanity right now. So that's my call to you, that's my invitation. You can come talk with me afterwards if you want to learn more. Thank you. Refuse fascism for
You guys are welcome down. Go right ahead. All right. I just want to say with the camera. I just want to say that the views and opinions expressed here tonight are those of We Act Radio, and not those of DC Jazz Festival. DC Jazz Festival is responsible for the artists here tonight, and We Act Radio is responsible for the politics. Okay. Having said that, I urge everyone to go watch the mayor's press conference today. I've been trying to tell people this. We got to get away from identity politics. Stop assuming that somebody that looks like you is for you. Okay? Like we say, oh, it's a woman president. Like somehow that's a benefit to women. Like, are you serious? You sure? You know, she's in my sorority. And what are the politics? We got to get past symbolism and get into substance. And unfortunately, the bearer of bad news is that this takeover is not going to go away. They are trying to normalize it. And in the mayor's press conference today, who's right back outside, said that she welcomes the intervention. Luke, do you understand that DC already have more police per capita than any city in America? And America has more prisoners than any country in the entire world. Let me say that again. America is 5% of the world's population. And the country that has 5% of the world's population has more prisoners than the entire planet. China has 20% of the world's population. And we got more prisoners in China and have the audacity. And some people with these neoliberals will go along with, well, China's oppressive. Really? Really? So we are in a tight spot, but I'm submitting to you is DC versus everybody. Okay? And in addition to what this young lady is saying, I'm running for Congress. I ran last year for our beloved Congresswoman Ellen Holmes Norton, who is not up for this fight, but we need to give her flowers because now it's time to get dirty. and I will be running again next year. I'm proud to report to you that little old me got more votes than Donald Trump got in the nation's capital on his best night. Right? So you take that and multiply it times Zoran Madani, and anything can happen. All right? Please follow us on social media, follow these artists, support the work. Do what you can to resist. She gave you a platform. Always remember the 5th of November. If you don't know where that comes from, that's V for Vendetta. So check it out. Art imitates life. Sometimes the other way around, right, Kenny? You don't know? Okay, well, we'll talk about it.
I'm still on fire from this band, bro.
This is an upliftment. This is a soundtrack. And if I can get the resources, we're going to create a documentary. And these guys are going to be hired to do the score, the soundtrack. You know, so we're working on that. We're working on that. And the last thing I would say, and I'll let you guys go, is I just want to do a show of hands real quick. I do a poll. If you had to choose between DC statehood or no federal income taxes, which would you choose? No judgment, just poll, okay? I'm not saying you got to be solely about one or the other, but which would you prefer if you had to choose, okay?
You had your own state.
All right, so for everybody who would prefer statehood, raise their hand. For those who would prefer not to pay no federal income tax, keep your hand out my pocket, raise your hand. So everybody didn't vote. Y'all look like the last election.
I don't live here.
Everybody didn't vote.
I don't live here, but I'll take the money.
I'm trying to tell you that our beloved Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who is the oldest person in the House of Representatives, mind you, has been doing this for 4 decades. And if it's not going to change in 4 decades, I think we need to do something different. Don't you think? Don't you think? I'm on tape. Don't you think? Okay. So what I'm submitting to you, that yes, I'm for DC statehood and self-determination. I think it's the linchpin issue that can flip the balance of power in the entire country, because theoretically, we would have 2 progressive Democratic senators and more representation in the House of Congress. But I submit to you that that's not going to happen in foreseeable future, especially in this political climate we're now in. So therefore, if you agree that billionaires don't pay their fair share of taxes, and that corporations don't pay their fair share in taxes, and recognize that DC residents pay more taxes per capita than most states, and other non-voting delegates such as Guam and Puerto Rico pay nothing, then therefore I submit to you that we should not be paying federal income taxes at all, and we'll keep that in our pocket. That is the flipping tables like Jesus issue that I'm running on. So if I have that support, please follow us at We at Carroll. Give one more time for the band. Y'all get home safe. Stay safe, stay strong, stay woke. Boom. And support DC Jazz Fest. If you got a couple dollars, check out the schedule at dcjazzfest.org. And the opinions and views expressed here tonight are those of We Act Radio and not of DC Jazz Festival.
I'm like,